Hi Flosstube, my name is Danielle and this is my channel where I talk about cross stitch mostly, sometimes other crafty things, and sometimes things that are important to me. And today is gonna be one of those days. So buckle up. I hope you have some kind of crafting to do, be it stitching, knitting, crochet, diamond painting, whatever craft you're into. I apologize if you can hear the rattling. We're experiencing wind and I have a vent thing that just bangs up against my wall. We're going to talk about some things going on in the world. And I also just have like a lot to show you. So we're going to be here for a little while. It is currently February 25th, this video. I'm filming it a little bit early because I need to get the things out of my head. And it's probably gonna take me a couple days to edit and upload anyway, so I suspect that this will probably go up closer to the first of the month anyway. Yeah, so let me just do like the normal spiel first. Thank you for being here. If you're new here, I'm glad you stumbled in, and if you're returning, I appreciate you for being here and returning to my videos. If you feel so inclined to leave a comment down below, I do donate 25 cents per comment, up to $25 per month left on the channel, to an animal rescue organization called Panda Paws Rescue. I haven't done my donation for February yet because I'm kind of filming this impromptu. I thought I had a couple more days before I was going to film, so I will either do the donation in the next couple of days and show you on the next one, or I'll wait and I'll combine with March. But either way, I will always show you my receipts to prove that I do in fact do as I say. And if you want to know more about the inspiration behind all that, why I do it, I explain the whole thing and the whole story in my Flosstube number 3. I believe today is Flosstube number 5. It is my end of February stitching recap. But first, before we talk about stitching, we're going to talk about things going on in the world. And y'all, I took notes. I had so much to say, and like I'm really bad at like remembering names, remembering, you know, shops and stuff like that, that I wanted to have a few things to reference so that hopefully I can be a little bit better about saying the thing. I do always like edit it in text, and I will probably be providing a lot of links in the description below, so look for that too. But it's been a week, y'all. It has been a week, and I am at my capacity for, like, pardon my language here, language warning, I am at my capacity for the shitty things that people do to other people. I'm at my capacity. It started earlier this week in the cross-stitching community. There is a thing called Market. I'm sure you probably know about it. It's Nashville Needle Market. Nashville Needle Market. Needlework. Words. Nashville Needlework Market, which is run by Yarn Tree, a company called Yarn Tree. It is, at least in the United States, it's the only in-person wholesale needlework show where designers of cross-stitching patterns, dyers of fabric, dyers of floss, anybody who makes anything needlework or to do needlework on or with, comes to a hotel just outside of Nashville, Tennessee, and they like have all of the like meeting rooms booked up and stuff, and they sell their patterns, fabric, floss, accessories, etc. And then shops, local needlework shops and online retail shops, they come and they shop for the patterns and the fabric and the floss. And they make their purchases, they take everything home with them. It's a cash and carry, they pay for it, they get the goods in their hands and they take it home. It's very big. Like designers from across the world, like I know Fox and Rabbit, who are based in Australia, will be there. So it's not just designers in the United States, like it's a big thing. There is a designer, and I'm gonna name names because I believe that I would hope that if you are sitting here watching this, you would not seek them out to stitch their stuff, like when I'm about to tell you like the harm that they're causing. There's valid points on both sides about naming names versus not naming names. You know, on the not naming name side is that you don't want to give them a platform, but on the naming name side, they need to be held accountable, and people who don't want to accidentally support them need to know who they are so they know not to support them. So I'm going to name names. Hopefully you don't take the name and go support them, because yeah, it is, but it is what it is. Like, I'm making the choices that are within my control. You will make the choices that are within your control. So the designer is Needle Made Designs, and she posted on her Instagram about a pattern that she was going to be bringing to market, and it was going to have some accoutrement, some like a button that you could add, and as well as somebody that she knows makes thread winders, and they were going to have 2 different thread winders to go with this pattern. Now the pattern in question was it was kind of like well, it wasn't a complex pattern, but with the pattern, you know, sometimes you make like a needle book or you make a strawberry. It was meant to be made into a thing, and the thing that it was going to be made into was inspired by a Civil War era. It's called a hiswif. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm gonna call it a pouch, okay? So it's like this pouch that soldiers would carry it was basically like a clothes mending pouch, and it would carry the flag that they were fighting for. Now this designer, she has written that she designed this and stitched it as an education piece and in honor of her great-great-grandfather who fought for the Union. But the problem, the problem was that the thread winders were the initial problem. I was not personally aware of the issue with the pattern at first, because it was more in the background and there was less information about the pattern on the post. The post was mainly about the thread winders. So the thread winders, there was going to be 2, and one had an image of a Union flag on it and the other had an image of a Confederate flag. And it turned out there was also an issue with the pattern, which we'll get to in a second, but this was just, it is not okay to make trivial things with images of symbols that stand for hatred, devaluing human lives, racism, white supremacy. It's just not okay. There is everybody who was defending the designer was like, we can't erase our history. We can't ignore our history. We can't pretend it never happened. That's not what anybody is saying. There is a place for these symbols. There is a place to represent history. Those places are history books, museums, places that are meant for education. We do not need to be creating and especially profiting. That's where I am drawing a hard line on this issue. Profiting off of symbols of hatred, white supremacy, it's not okay. It is not okay to profit off these things. So the designer, after a lot of backlash, a lot of people made comments on the post. She ended up she deleted all the comments, turned off commenting, eventually deleted the post. That's not being accountable for your actions. That's not. So, and a lot of people also reached out privately. I don't have intimate knowledge of what was said to her privately. I have relatively a lot of knowledge about what people said on the posts publicly, but she came back with a new post, and it had the thread winder was no longer on the post, and the pattern picture was different. And this is where I learned that the pattern was problematic as well. I guess, like bad me, I didn't focus as much on the background of the photo. I didn't try to ascertain what the pattern was at the time. It was just that thread winder where we were like, no. But the pattern, so she came out with a new post, new picture, no more thread winder. And she was like, okay, I've heard everybody, and I will not be bringing the thread winders to market. I have returned them to the person who made them, and she can do with them whatever she sees fit. I will still be bringing my pattern though, and my pattern, which has both the Union flag and the Confederate flag options. It's a pattern with options so that you could stitch your pouch with either the Union flag or the Confederate flag. She said the cover of the chart will only feature the Union flag, and that inside the chart, folded up so that it's not visible when you open the chart, would be the Confederate flag pattern, and there would be a content warning sticker on the piece of paper so that anybody who might be triggered could just throw it away. I just cannot even begin to lay out everything that's wrong with that. And while change is appreciated, while it was better than just ignoring everything, it was a far cry from enough. We were like, you cannot just expect people to oh, you have an issue with the Confederate flag, still buy my chart and just throw the included secret chart away. No. So again, there were a lot of comments, and eventually she updated the post to say, and she kept all of her original, and you can find this, it's still there, it's still on Instagram. Again, Needle Made Designs. You can read for yourself her excuses for why she thought it was okay to design and sell profit off of a Confederate flag. So she kept all of her excuses intact, but she updated to say, update, I will not be bringing my chart to market. To me, it felt very, okay, already, get off my back. it did not feel like she understood the harm that the Confederate flag causes. It just did not feel like she understood. So it's good and it's progress that it will not be at market. But this designer is out there. This designer thinks it's okay to profit off of the Confederate flag. In fact, there was discussion, and I don't know if she's still going to do it or not. It sounds like she's, going to sell her design, just not at market. She'll sell it through her website. She is carried through like cross-stitch pattern distribution companies. I don't know which ones, but I've found her designs on 123 Stitch. So, but there was discussion of her donating a portion of the proceeds to a organization that benefits Black Americans. It was a college fund. And again, problematic. I don't think that any organization that's trying to change things, trying to make anybody's life better, wants money donated to them from the sale of something that was a symbol of their oppression. And it just, the whole thing, so messed up, so ridiculously messed up. But she's presumably still going to do all of this, just not at market. So, but one of the good things that came out of this whole ordeal was, and one of the good things that came out of this whole ordeal was, if I had a best new thing like Michelle G. Benista G has, my best new thing would be this. I learned of a designer. So on Instagram, she is at Krista M. West, and that's KristaMWest. And she designs under the label Avlea Embroidery, and her patterns are inspired by Mediterranean textiles. She made a ridiculously hard and courageous and brave decision that she did not want her designs sold in an environment that was going to allow symbols of hatred and white supremacy to be sold at their venue. So she emailed Yarn Tree, people who organize Nashville, and didn't get a response. So then she called them. And again, you can read all this on her Instagram page. This is where this is coming from. She called them and they told her that they can't solve all the world's problems, and they ended up hanging up on her. So that was very disappointing to hear that. And so she was like, I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna go and sell my designs at this place that is going to sell the Confederate flag. And then she got an update from Yarn Tree to say that the items wouldn't be there. And I think at this point is where all of us knew about the thread winders, but we didn't necessarily know about the chart inside the design inside the chart. So she was like, okay, that's awesome. I'll go, like, back on. So, and we were thinking, yay, victory. Like, the people who organized the event drew a line and said, no, this isn't okay. But then that's when the update from the designer came out saying, hey, no thread winders, but still Confederate flag in the chart with a content warning. So she pulled out. She canceled her reservations and everything before the update came about the designer not bringing the chart. But I wanted to plug her because she put her principles and she put people's lives and feelings above profit. So again, Krista M. West, and I bought a kit from her because she wasn't going to be at market. She released the kit that she was going to be selling at market to her website, and I didn't know this before it got here, but she's local-ish to me. She's like maybe 60, 70 miles south of me, so it got here super fast. My haul is going to be a little mixed in with stuff today. There's still a lot of haul otherwise, but I wanted to open this. I ran out to the mail in the freezing cold to go get this so I could show it to you if I was going to film. So, crinkle warning. I had a look at her website before she announced that she would be putting this on her website because I wanted to support her for making that decision. Her patterns are not necessarily my stitching style, but I did like this one that she had previewed. And some of her patterns are quite large. So I was happy she released this one. I still think this is a little bit large, but it's not as big as some of them. So, you know, I wanted to support, but I also wanted something that I will hopefully stitch. So here's a business card that was included. Here, okay, don't cover my notes. This is a very pretty business card showing off some of, I like a lot of the motifs, but I was struggling to figure out like which one would I pick where I could pull just like a motif. Oh, and then there's a little freebie included, free chart. It's got here, free chart. And then the kit, which includes the floss and a piece of 10 by 12 inch, 26 count threaded fabric. I remember the website saying something about it's imported from Greece. But here's the kit, here's the image that it is. It's tulips and carnations. Again, these are Mediterranean textile inspired patterns. There's the floss. She also includes a needle, and I will open this to show you the fabric because I'm curious what it feels like. Okay, it's a little coarse, a little not as coarse as burlap, but it has that kind of feel to it. So this is much smaller than I thought it was then. That's good. Good. Yeah, 26 count. I can see the holes nicely. It looks very even. Of course, I don't have my magnifiers on, so don't quote me there. But yeah, so I was excited to support her because that was an amazing thing that she did, I thought, in my opinion. So now that I've talked for 25 minutes about the one like horrible thing going on in the world right now. Oh, here's the floss. It's DMC, I believe. Yeah. Yep, DMC. 347469931. This will be good. This will be cute. I like it. And I think I actually think, honestly, I don't want to stitch the rectangular frame. I want to stitch this and then put it in an oval hoop. Yeah. But I'll have to find, most oval hoops go with the orientation in a vertical orientation. I would want to find it going in a horizontal orientation. Okay. Next. And then it just gets worse. Just gets worse. So then that was sort of, oh, and hope you have a beverage too. I need to hydrate. So I felt like that was just settling down, and it was very disheartening because there wasn't really good resolution to it. I mean, again, something is better than nothing, but it did not feel satisfying, especially because the organizers of the event would not draw a line about hate symbols being sold at their event. They would not go on the record. They hung up on somebody who was trying to, you know, question what was going on. It didn't feel good. A couple days later, the news hit about the bills in Florida and Texas having to do with harming trans kids. In Florida, the bill that is in question would make it so that in schools there can be no discussion of anything under the umbrella of LGBTQIA2S. Nothing under that umbrella. No discussion of gender identity, no discussion of gender fluidity, just, you know, just heterosexual, you know, male, female, that's it. Like and that if a child comes to a teacher, school counselor, whatever, that school employee would be required by law to out that child to their family, even if the child does not wish for their family to know about how they're feeling, even if it would be unsafe for that child's family to know about their sexuality or gender identity feelings. And the harm that this will cause is immeasurable. Like, anybody under the queer, I'm just going to call it queer now because that's a long abbreviation. Anybody under the queer umbrella is already at a very heightened risk of violence against them or self-injury, anything and everything, including suicide. And especially trans. The trans community is one of the highest risk for suicide. So to take away a safe space, you are supposed to be able to trust your teachers, your guidance counselors. They are supposed to help you to know. And then that also takes away, you know, telling your friends at school, because if you're overheard, if in a petty, you know, act of like, you know, your friend gets mad at you and then tells what you disclosed to them, right? Like, you don't have anybody you can trust now to disclose how you're feeling and how that is impacting you. So this is not okay. Absolutely not okay. But it's even worse in Texas. In Texas, the lawmakers in Texas would like for doctors, anybody who's a mandated reporter, basically, to report parents of trans children to DHS for child abuse if they have reason to suspect that they are trying to provide their child with gender-affirming health care. So, yeah, apparently trying to love and support your child and make decisions, you know, between you and your doctor and your child about how to best support them is now child abuse, according to Texas. So please check out Dee from Dee's 20 Stitches, because Dee has been compiling resources for where you can donate, and has said publicly that if you don't know where to donate, DM them on Instagram, Dee's 20 Stitches, send them a private message. They will find you an organization to donate to. They made a very valid point about, please don't just donate to the Trevor Project every time something, you know, anti-queer comes up in the news, because the Trevor Project is a very, very large organization, and there are organizations that are based in states where this legislation is happening. They are closer to the issue, and so more of the, you know, like all of the funds can help that issue, versus when you donate to the Trevor Project, it's being spread out over, you know, a multitude of things. So some of the places that Dee has recommended to donate to that are applicable and most helpful to the issues in Texas and Florida are Equality Texas, transtexas.org, latintranstexas.org, blacktranswomen.org, and then for Florida, there's also an Equality Florida. And again, please follow Dee. And also, Dee has a buy me a coffee link. You know, please, like, support Dee. Dee, I do not fall under the queer umbrella. My best friend in the entire world is trans. So it does affect my life. And beyond that, I care about people. But it does affect my life. And I can't imagine, if I'm feeling how I feel about it, I cannot imagine how people like Dee feel through this time. Like, just a constant assault of, you know, you don't matter, you're not good enough, you threaten us. Like, it's awful. It is awful. So, and there are also places where you can, you know, that give you information about who you can send emails to, messages to. It's not okay. It's not okay. And kids are gonna be hurt. Kids are gonna suffer. So, and then Russia invaded Ukraine. That's a thing now. I have less political knowledge on this front, so I'm going to keep this a little bit more reserved because I don't want to say anything potentially false. I haven't yet found, like, I felt comfortable sharing the organizations because I trust Dee and Dee's knowledge, because I've been following Dee for a while. I don't have enough personal knowledge of anybody that I've seen on Instagram sharing where to donate to help Ukraine to feel confident in, like, verbalizing to the world those organizations. But what I will say, I support Ukraine. Ukraine is a free Ukraine is their own nation. Ukraine is not property of Russia, and Russia has no right to invade Ukraine, kill people. Editing Danielle here to say that when I say Russia, I most specifically mean Putin. There's been a very good point made on social media about most of the Russian citizens do not want this war. They are certainly not responsible for the actions of Putin. So please, please do not put hatred out in the world for the citizens of Russia. They don't want this, and they are going to suffer for Putin's choices. No, absolutely not okay. And then what I will say as far as supporting and like something you can do, we have a lot of Ukrainian stitchers, a lot of Ukrainian cross-stitch designers. Please support them. Like, as of right now, as of everything I know right now, their, infrastructures, their banking infrastructures are intact. So there's a couple that I do follow and on Instagram that have been very vocal about what's going on. One of them is Stitchy_princess_black, and the other is Cup_of_stitches. And Cup of Stitches is also on YouTube under the same handle, Cup of Stitches. And they are both Ukrainian stitchers and designers. They have shops. I think maybe Cup of Stitches doesn't have a shop. I can't remember. But they're posting information, and there's some hashtags and some styles going on. Hashtag Stitch for Ukraine. Please find a Ukraine, support our Ukrainian designers. Like, they need help. You can go to Etsy.com. In the search, you can search digital files. Use the filter to filter for shop location, choose custom, and type in Ukraine. And what that'll do is that will show you every listing from a shop in Ukraine that contains the word digital files. So that means you can buy digital patterns. They don't have to mail anything to you. They don't have to leave their house or whatever they're doing to try to stay safe. And you can support them that way. So please support our Ukrainian stitchers, designers, etc. And it is not okay for Russia to try to take a country that they don't have any right or business claiming. It's a lot, y'all. Like I said at the beginning, I'm at my capacity for people doing shitty things to other people. It's been a lot. Okay, again, hydrate before I go on to talking about cross stitch, which feels very trivial. I go through times where there are things going on in the world and it makes me feel silly and ridiculous to sit down and talk about my, silly little hobby. But also, at the same time, I know that it's important because it's something that's important to my mental health. And also, me cross-stitching has engaged me with a community that I would not be able to articulate some of these things if I was not engaged with the cross stitch community. So, you know. Okay, so when I last saw you, I said that my plans were to continue stitching on Gilmore Girls and then pull out Lindy Stitch's Beach Dance to hopefully finish that pattern for February, and then we would see what the rest of the month would bring. Well, I took those plans, I rolled down my window, and I chucked them out the window like going 75 miles on the interstate, and they like hit the ground and shattered into a million pieces. I did nothing that I said I was going to do. I did stitch a tiny bit more on Gilmore Girls. I didn't pull it over here but I'll put in a picture. And all I did in that picture since the last time you saw it was where it says Copper Boom near the dragonfly and the mile marker sign. I think it's between the mile marker and the dragonfly. It says Copper Boom. That's all I did. Because, and this is another spot where my haul and my stuff is going to be kind of mixed in, I had decided that I wanted to go to my local needlework shop, which is Acorns and Threads. They're about 35 minutes away from me. I don't get there very often because I'm a night person and they close at 4 in the afternoon. On the days where we're able to go, you know, I might be up, but I'm not, like, I don't want to leave the house, and that gets into rush hour. Like, if we're gonna go there, we need to leave at like noon, and I'm not up and ready to leave the house at noon on a day off. So, but I'll make an exception. Like, and I was really wanting to go. I'd been wanting to go for a couple weeks, but things hadn't worked out because sometimes I just want to look at the floss. Do you ever feel that way? I sometimes just want to look at pretty floss, and I don't like looking at it online because a lot of the pictures online are very close up of the floss, and that doesn't do it for me. I also am textile about it. I want to feel the floss, which I can't do online. So I go about twice a year, and I just wanted to go look at pretty floss, and I had a couple ideas in the back of my head. I have not stitched with very much silk in my year and a half of cross stitching. I've only stitched with silk twice, one of which I only put in maybe 100 or 150 stitches before I realized a counting error and I didn't want to fix it, and so I abandoned it. And the other one was the silk from Fangirl Fibers, which I didn't like. It was just too thick and plump for me and how I like to stitch. So I was like, I need to figure out what the deal with silk is. Like, everybody loves silk. They rave about it. And I'm like, I want to know what the big deal is. And I know that not all silk is created equal. So I was like, the only way I'm going to try to figure this out is if I go get some silks, different brands. But my issue is, like, every time I've thought to myself, oh, I want to try that fabric, or oh, I want to try that floss, I get it and then it just sits, right? Because I don't have something to do with it. And so then maybe it sits for 6 months before I try it, or I go and buy a whole bunch more of it without having used it, and then I find out I don't like it. So I was like, I want to have a specific project in mind. So I had 2 projects that I wanted to experiment with. So these are finishes. I don't have any fully finished objects, but I have 2 finishes, start and finishes, and the flosses that I got to go with them. Now, in addition to wanting to try silk, I was inspired by a gift chart from Michelle Bendy Stitchy, from her Patreon, where she had tried to stitch a little bird in wool, but she was using the DMC tapestry wool and it did not work out because, like, it just shredded And so she ended up converting to sulky, but I was like, hey, I want to try, right? I want to stitch your bird in wool, which is what your original intention was, but clearly not DMC tapestry wool. So the first thing that I looked for was wool to do her little bird. Now I will put a picture of what her bird looked like. And I just wanted a more simple blue bird. So I didn't pick every color, but I got 2 blues, a dark and a light, and I got a brown for the feet and beak, and then a purple for the little doodads. And this is my bird. It's so cute, but let me tell ya, she called her bird trial and error. And my bird was definitely trial and error. So this is stitched in wool, and I'll show you the wools here in a second. It is stitched on a 32 count Lugana from Live and Die LA called Ecru Brute. But yeah, she's so cute. And it was definitely trial and error. So my flosses are a mess, by the way. The 2 wools that I picked up, or the 2 blues, excuse me, because I did it all in wool, were from a company called Bella Lasuo. I had to make tags for them because they come in little like skein. They come in skein type things, and I couldn't get them back in because you had to take it all apart to cut it, and so I couldn't get it back in. But these are the 2 blues. The lighter blue is color 234. The darker blue is color 229. I do not recommend. As I was stitching, the wool broke down really bad. In fact, at one point it snapped. Pulled my needle through and my wool snapped in the middle. And it needs to be stitched with very, very short strands, like no more than 20 stitches at a time. It's just very, very soft. So, I mean, if you're gonna do needlepoint with this, you're probably gonna experience something very different. But for cross stitching, I do not recommend. It is too soft and it will snap. And actually, I don't think you'll be able to see it on here, but like right in this middle part of the bird, my wool was getting thin. And so there's some thin stitches there. So then for the brown and the purple, I bought Gentle Arts. The purple is called Hyacinth and the brown is called Maple Syrup. And I am happy to report that these are much sturdier. If you want to cross stitch with wool, the Gentle Arts ones were much sturdier. They felt it. I didn't stitch for very long with them because again, it was just the feet, beak, and doodads, but they just felt much sturdier. They could take a lot more pulling through the fabric. You know, I just think that there's a reason why wool is typically, you know, we just see it used with needlepoint because those canvases have much larger holes. Because I don't think it's really meant to go through like these small holes. But so these were the wools that I bought. And I stitched this, it did take me 2 days because it was kind of a tough to fight through, but it's a finish. I bought a little tiny hoop for it. I just haven't fully finished. Yeah, okay, put that there. Next, and I'm very proud of this. I had found somebody on a stream I was in had mentioned that Forest Embroidery had a freebie that was starlings with a little birdhouse. And it was funny because I had just been on their website and had looked through what I thought was everything. Didn't see that pattern. Went back, searched for starlings, and of course there it was. So it only had called for 5 colors, and I was like, I feel like that's a perfect amount of colors to convert to silk. So again, I'm gonna put in a picture of the model. And this was a little difficult because they use heavily variegated floss. So it was hard for me to decide which color to focus on, to pull, to try to find something that matched. But I think I did a decent job. And I picked 4 different companies, but the one company that duplicated, it is a different type of silk. These are a mess. And then I ended up getting something in the mail that I decided to use as a 6th color to put in initials and date, because I turned this into a wedding sampler, because I haven't stitched a wedding sampler. And as it was pointed out in the stream I was in, like it's a sweet little, like, little birds that are in love, and like the little birdhouse is their home. And so if you add your initials and the date to it, it's a wedding sampler. So here it is. It's not ironed. I stitched this on a 32 count Lugana from Fortnite Fabrics. It was from their, hold on, let me fold. It was from their Fabric of the Month Club, the opalescent one, but this one didn't come with a tag. So I think they had an issue where something happened with their, they didn't have their stapler or something, and not everything got tagged. So I have no idea what it's called. It's very blue, but in some lights it reads a tiny bit green, tealish. So yeah, and I'll show you the floss here in a minute, but yeah, 32 count Lugana opalescent Fortnite Fabrics. This had a little under 2,000 stitches in it. Took me about 12 or 13 days, but it felt like a whole month. I stitched most of the birdhouse pretty quickly, and then I kind of started feeling burnout, and I wanted to change projects, but I didn't want to add this to my WIP list. I didn't want this to languish and have to, you know, come back to it, because I just didn't know how long it would take me to come back to it. So it was a little rougher to push past that point of the birdhouse and the birds. Also learned about myself, I do not enjoy stitching flower like stems, all those vines coming off the birdhouse. Did not enjoy. Just too much. I typically stitch a whole stitch at a time, but I will utilize half stitches if I have to travel away from where I'm stitching and come back. So all the little leaves were situations like that. So it was a lot of mentally taxing to, it was mentally taxing to be like, how do I go out to where I need to get to and still be able to come back without having to carry too far? So I don't enjoy stitching flowers, or mostly the stems of the flowers. The flowers were fine. And other than that, I didn't have really any issues with this, except again, just burnout. Like when I'm ready to switch projects, I'm ready to switch projects, and I won't stitch if I don't want to work on what I'm working on. So it took, you know, a little longer than it should have to get it done because of that. So as for the flosses I used, the birds, and even though it might look like it, but only the birds, not the initials, are done in this Thread Gatherers Silken Colors Patriots Blue. And this floss is super soft, and I did notice is probably the softest of the flosses that I worked with, and it did start to fray a little bit. So with that, I would just really recommend doing shorter strands, which is not my jam. But it got a tiny, not in how they lay, but definitely my ends were getting very frayed. So this one I just feel like is one that needs less friction, doesn't perform as well with friction. The birdhouse itself, in addition to some of the vines, are this Gloriana. And this is a single strand Gloriana. When I hear people talk about Gloriana, they're usually referring to the classic Gloriana, which is a 12 strand. And I do have that, I'll show that one next. But this is single strand, you do not ply it. Hold on. Let me pull one of these. Yeah, so it's just a single strand, you don't separate it. I hated this floss, hated this floss. And of course, it was the most amount of stitches in the project. Hated it because as I would pull, it would just spiral. It would just spiral up so bad, and just wanted to knot so ridiculously bad. Also, while it feels really soft, like running your fingers over it, on the fabric, it does not feel soft at all. And it just, it doesn't feel or look like any of the other silks, especially when you look up really close with the magnifiers. I don't know what it looks like, but it doesn't look like silk. I don't know, it was weird. But that's the birdhouse plus some of the stems, vines, whatever. It was supposed to be down here. It was actually supposed to be that color where I did the tulip stems, but I didn't like this color for flower stems as much, so I switched it to the other green. And so then I was supposed to put it as like little doodads that go along the entire line of the tulips, but I didn't really think that element was necessary, and it would have meant more stitching with that floss. I don't recommend. I feel like it would be better if you were using it as a single. I loop started and doubled because this is 32 count and I used 2 strands. If perhaps you were using it on a 36 or a 40, and therefore you were only using 1 strand, it might perform a little better, but do not recommend for doubling. The next color, which is the birdhouse, some of the flowers, the beaks, is this classic Gloriana 12 strand. Oh, I forgot to tell you the color of the other Gloriana. Monet's Pond Green. And this one is Lemon Ice. Now this one is much nicer to use than the single strand, but it was wound so tightly that it's very curly, and this has had so much time to relax and it's still so curly. I did consider getting like a damp rag and running it over. I wasn't sure. I know people do that with DMC. I didn't know about doing it with silk. So it was a little harder to work with because it's so curled. And also it does feel nice to stitch with, but I didn't feel that the stitches laid as nicely as some of the other ones that I'll talk about here in a minute. I don't know why I can't get this to focus, but it just didn't feel quite as nice, or the stitches don't look as nice as some of the other silks. Next, I'm saving what I think is my favorite. These last, well, there's 3. Okay, hold on. Let's save the best for last. So let's talk about the initials and the year are done in this Impressions by Karen. It is a 50% silk, 50% wool, and the color is Midnight, 072 Midnight. Now, I decided to use this. I was going to use the blue from the birds, but I had bought some of this on 123 Stitch. Acorns and Threads didn't have it. They had the silk and they had the cotton, but they didn't have this blend. And I bought this because Michelle from Bendy Stitchy really likes this floss and has raved about it. So I was like, I'm in the mood to try things, right? Let me try it. Y'all, so this is single ply, you know, single strand. You do not strand this. It is so thick. Not, I mean, I don't know. It is just ridiculously thick. And you can see that, I feel like, in the stitches. It is so thick. So I did not enjoy stitching with it. No, I did not enjoy it. I feel like maybe on a 14 or a 28 count, non-hand dyed, maybe it would be better. It would certainly give you, it certainly gives you good coverage, but I just didn't enjoy stitching with it. So then these two are my 2 favorites for a couple different reasons. So the green, the other green in the stems is NPI color 542 Renaissance Green range. I picked it just because I thought it was a good springy green for flowers. And I really liked how the stitches laid with this. Like, they just felt like some of the cleanest stitches. It can be hard to get nice clean stitches that lay nice when you do, you know, 2 strands. I thought these were some of the nicest looking stitches with the NPI silk. That said, it did try to knot on me quite a bit. I still have a couple knots in the back that I didn't discover when they first happened, and I was not about to pick it out and fix it. They're not very thick, so, or, you know, they're not gonna add volume to the back too much. So I enjoyed that one a good deal. And the last floss in the project, and my other favorite, is this Dinky Dyes. Dinky Dyes 160 Pink Diamond, used for all the flowers and the bird feet. And what I liked about the Dinky Dyes was the stitches lay pretty much as nicely as the NPI, maybe a smidge less attractive, but they do lie very well. And the Dinky Dyes very rarely tried to knot on me. This is probably the silk that I had the least trouble with for knotting. It is also very soft, but did not seem to fray. The strands are a little short for my personal preference for stitching. I could only get barely, these flowers, these bigger flowers are 40 stitches, and it was pushing it to get the 40 stitches in. Personally, I like to stitch between 50 and 70 stitches on a strand. I understand that for silk that might be excessive due to the fraying, And maybe if it was longer, it wouldn't perform as well like the thread gatherers, because the thread gatherer lengths were, I was able to do like 50 at a time. So maybe Dinky Dyes knows and sort of forces you into that length so that you won't have an issue. But it was very soft, but didn't fray, didn't start to break down, and it just didn't really knot on me. So I enjoyed the Dinky Dyes a lot and the NPI a lot. The Gloriana 12 strand was nice. The thread gatherers feels very nice, but again, just like be careful, use shorter lengths. And the Gloriana single strand can, nope, not gonna do that again. But yeah, so this is a finish. It was a start and a finish. And my plan for this, I have heard through the grapevine that you can go to Michael's, and instead of paying a lot of money for a custom frame, you can buy a frame on the shelf, bring it over to the framing department, and for a fee, I've heard 20, but I mean, I don't know how old that is. It might be more by now, but I have heard for like $20-ish, they will stretch and lace your cross stitch on the backing, on a backing board, and assemble your frame that you bought off the shelf. So I thought that that might be a really nice, cheap way to get it put in a frame. I do not have good like skills. I want it to be straight and look nice. The things I frame myself, not so much. And it's a little bit specialer to me because, again, wedding sampler, again, like I stitched it all in silk. So for my things that are a little nicer and more sentimental, I kind of want to do, you know, framing / custom framing where I'm not, you know, like doing it myself. So I want to do that hopefully next week. I will be able to get to Michael's and get that done. Okay, those were my finishes. So again, that took me to the middle of February, and I had not stitched on Beach Dance, and I thought about it and it just wasn't feeling it at that moment. Y'all, why is my thing so loose? Not a fan of the scroll rod. Anyway, the next thing I wanted to do, I actually wanted to work on my Hade. I have not touched my Hade in a year. I worked on it in February of last year. And my thing is, while I'm a process crafter, a finished product is definitely a big part of the process for me. So I have found that I've been more inclined to gravitate towards things where A, I can see large amounts of progress, and B, you know, a finish is attainable, like it feels obtainable. So reaching for something with 272,000 stitches doesn't happen for me a lot because it feels so far out there, but I also logically understand that I'm never going to get it done if I never work on it. So I feel like once I get my whips down to a more reasonable for me number, I am hoping in the future that I can have sort of like one really, really big project like a Hade, and then have maybe one or two that are more in the medium category, which I categorize as like, it's a pretty broad range, anything from 10,000 to 40,000 stitches. That is definitely like a long term, but not so unmanageable that it feels like the Hade does. And then, so maybe have like two of those. And then if it's I'll be kind of selective about 5,000 to 10,000 stitches. Like that feels a little tiny bit overwhelming, because I can't normally finish something like that in one stitchy session. Not session like a day, but like for me, the burnout on the project, I don't want to start something and then put it down and not come back to it as much when they're smaller. So 5,000 to 10,000 is a little bit more dicey because I know I'll burn out before I can finish it. I mean, I was burning out on that and it only had 2,000 stitches in it. So, but things that are 5,000 stitches and less, love them, because I can usually start and finish them and then they don't add to my whip list. So going forward, once I get the whips down to that range, I want like 1 Haid, 2 bigger, like medium, big-ish projects, and then basically like whatever I want on the smaller side, you know, just start something, finish it, you know. I've definitely figured out I'm way more drawn to smaller patterns. So I feel like until that happens, the Haid is not going to get that much love, but I felt like working on it, so I pulled it out and I worked on it. Here is a picture of the original artwork, which is called Breath of Power by Jody Bergsma. Here's a picture of the last time you saw it, which was in my whip parade, which was my first video, this is about 1,000 stitches, somewhere between 1,000 and 1,100. And here is what it looks like today. Sorry, it's all like, I folded in my Q-snap. So I did a lot, but not as much as I wanted. This is about 2,400 stitches. I'm stitching it on 25 count, easy grid, easy guide, whatever it is. Lugana, doing 2/1 10 stitch. And this is, I do have about almost 50% of the page done. And it's about 1.2% of the pattern done. I was sitting at 0.4% though. When I picked it up, I didn't even have a percent done. So I crossed over 1%, woohoo. It takes about 2,700 stitches before I see 1% accomplished. So, but yeah, so I worked on it a little bit. And again, I started feeling like this is not for me. I need to put this down. So I did. But the thing that kills me with this pattern is it's so, I showed it to my friend and she's like, oh, that's so much confetti. I saved my confetti for the end. And I'm like, yeah, but these are the primary colors. Like I'm doing the colors like that are most prominent on the page, you know? And it's a lot of like stitch 1, skip 1, stitch 2, skip 1, stitch 1, skip 2, stitch 2, skip 3. Like it's so, there are very rare moments where I get to stitch between 4 and 7, like in a row. Very, very few moments. I will say I was able to stitch longer, like longer sessions when I would pick it up than I was when I first started it. For me anyway, stitching Haids takes a lot of mental energy and stamina that I think I just did not have last year, because I remember last year I would put 1 strand in and feel like I'm exhausted, I can't touch this anymore. I did do 800 stitches in one session. Well, and they're half stitches, so you know it's really more like 400, but that's a lot for me in a day, even with it out being a Haid. So I do feel like the more stitching I've done, the easier this is getting. So that's good. But again, I just feel like until I get my whips down, which is gonna take, you know, it's gonna take a long time. And that's the only thing about stitching that I just, it takes so long, y'all. So long to do a project. And that was part of why, as much as I loved my birthday starts, and I'm so glad I did them, that I started them and everything, my whips got out of control. For me, again, like, it's all personal. And for me, I can't have more. I feel like 5 to 7 whips is my absolute max. I just can't. I need to finish things. So after I was done with the Haid, I was like, okay, now what do I want to work on? Because again, it's hard. I am hardcore sweet. Stitch what you want when you want. And I decided to pick up my, it's called The Raining Loreleis. The pattern is by Forbidden Fiber Co. Just as an FYI, Forbidden Fiber Co. is not a company that I am currently supporting due to their sale of Harry Potter themed items. I checked in personally a couple months ago with the owner of the shop. She said it's a work in progress. She did say they are no longer designing any new, like, they're not naming any new, it's mostly yarn, not really cross stitch as much, but they are no longer naming anything after Harry Potter things. Like, on a go forward, that's not happening, but they do still have inventory that they're working through, and she's not committed to any kind of timeline for not having anything left remaining in the shop that has a Harry Potter, you know, theme, inspiration, etc. So I'm not currently buying from the shop, but I do have a ton of Forbidden Fiber Co. stuff, patterns, kits, and floss from before I stopped supporting the shop. So this is called The Raining Loreleis. It is a Gilmore Girls inspired. It was a kit. It came with fabric and floss and the pattern and a little bag. And this is what the finished pattern will look like. And I really love it. I really love the pattern and the design. I really love most of Leanne's stuff, and it breaks my heart that I am not buying it. But again, people are more important than things. So, and then this is the last time you saw it, which again was in my whip parade. I'm kind of trying to touch all my projects. I'm not holding myself to, I must touch every project before I go back to a project. But so far, since I started filming Flosstube, which was basically since my birthday, I haven't really, like, I've tried to touch, you know, existing things and not go back to an existing thing before I've, you know, I haven't done a full rotation yet. And I'm not holding myself to doing a full rotation, but I would like for everything to get a little bit of love, you know? So again, I showed you the last time you saw it. I only put 1 day into this so far, and I finished the coffee cup. Yay! This coffee cup is chunky. This coffee cup is almost 600 stitches, but I did about 500 to finish it. The next thing that I'll do, there's steam coming off the coffee cup and then like a Quaker style border around it. I feel like I can definitely finish the coffee cup and the border around it and stuff. And then we'll see if I still want to work on it. If I do still want to work on it, I will go and stitch the borders of the 2 motifs out here, because those would still be in frame. I wouldn't have to move the scroll rod. But I do actually kind of want to move this thing. I want to put it on a different scroll rod because I don't know I know the fabric on here is crooked, but this has not been working out for me. So I have a different scroll rod I do want to try, but again, I will, if I work on it past the coffee cup, I'm gonna come out here and do these 2 borders. I don't know if it'll hold my attention that long though. We'll see. I do like that it's a lot of color. It's a lot of color blocking because there's only 4 colors. So I like that. And that's all the whips. I had the 2 starts and finishes. I had the Haid and I had Raining Loreleis. So the plans for March, I don't have any March plans. I'll work on that until I don't want to work on that anymore. And then I don't really know what's calling to me next. I was debating working on my Caroline Manning, but again, it's full coverage. It's 35,000 stitches. It's not a very soonish attainable finish. But yeah, I just don't know what's calling to me next. So I do not participate in any kind of March madness. Some people call it March matchup, which I prefer that. But starting a bunch of things is not. We just talked about that. That's not what I want to do. That's not where I want to be. No. And same goes for May Mania. I do not participate, A, because I do not like starting a whole bunch of things. B, I do not like using the terms madness and mania in casual, casual things. We shouldn't. Mania is a real disorder. It is a real thing that affects people, and it is devastating. We should not trivialize the word mania or madness or anything having to do with mental health. So I do not like those themes. The people who do March and Matchup, which I much prefer that terminology, they do like a bracket style thing where they like pick 2 projects, and then like whichever one wins goes on to a new bracket. I don't, yeah. Again, it's starting too many things. I could, and it's also, even if I wanted to work within what I already have, it's also working on too many projects. As much as I like to change projects, I don't change projects daily. No, that is not, I don't like to. I like to see, a decent amount of change in my projects before I set them down. So I don't change things daily. So the March and the May stuff is not for me. I will continue to stitch how I stitch, which is that I will pick what is most calling to me and work on it until I don't want to work on it anymore. I am not planning any new starts at this time. Although I will say I do kind of want to, Dee and Uncanny Kari have a newsletter, and they did send out a pattern, free pattern. They just ask that you donate to those organizations. They ask that you share the organizations, and I'm working on that. I'm going to be doing those things. I did already donate to Equality Florida, and I'm going to work on putting in some donations to the Texas organizations, and then sharing all those things on my Instagram. But they put out a pattern that says don't mess with trans kids, and it has a little like state of Texas in there. That would be a quick stitch. Also, the Stitch for Ukraine, I did buy 2 patterns from Stitchy Princess Black, and they're relatively small. One is bigger in size, but probably has a smaller stitch count, would be my guess. And the other is smaller, but I feel like it's a little denser. I haven't put them in a pattern keeper yet to see, but I'll put in a picture of the one that I think I kind of want to do. It's just like a sweet little ballerina. I don't really like the green though, so I was thinking of I'll use Fancy Floss, and I'll try to find something as close to that dark pink as possible. But then I was thinking of purple for the dress and the hair. So I think I might want to stitch that. So if I do start anything new in March, it would probably be one of those things. Those are my plans. On to haul. I have a lot of haul. Yeah, I already showed you my haul from Acorns and Threads, except to show you, which then I can put these away. While I was there, I did pick up like a zipper pull that says Acorns and Threads, and a needle minder. Gotta represent my local, you know, my local shop. So I do have some haul that is crafting related. It's adjacent. So I'll show that last in case you are not interested. So let me quasi organize, because I do want to, like, I love craft, like I just love people who can make things. Like, I cannot make things. I can make what people like directed me to make, like with the cross stitch and the diamond painting. Oh, speaking of diamond painting, real quick, insert a picture. Part of why I didn't stitch as much in February is because I did actually diamond paint a little bit, and I finished one. I did start this in January technically, but I did the majority of it in February. Finished, yay! Haven't finished a diamond painting in 6 months. Anyway, but yeah, so like I can, you know, like put something together, but I can't like make stuff. I'm not an artist. I am not, as much as I love yarn and want to be able to do stuff with yarn, I just can't get there, although I do have one thing, maybe someday. But yeah, so I want to show it off. I want to show, you know, and hopefully it'll inspire you to get some stuff yourself or whatever, but I'll show that stuff after I show the cross stitching haul. So I did an order with 1-2-3 Stitch. I bought, just because you never know what's going to happen, and I do want to stitch these, so you know, I'm currently working on foxglove, but I want to do a three pattern set, and these are the other two that I want to do. This is Geranium Pixie Blossoms Collection by Nora Corbett. And you just never know when things are going to get discontinued. So I wanted the patterns, but I won't kit them up until my birthdays. I think that's going to be a tradition, at least till these 3 are done, that I kit them up for my birthdays. And this is Snapdragon again. And these two and Foxglove are part of the Pixie Blossoms collection by Nora Corbett. And what's nice is that Geranium does have Krynic, but for the most part these pixies don't really have a lot of Krynic or anything like that, so I appreciate that because I haven't worked with it, but it definitely doesn't feel good, I'll say that. Then in that order from 1-2-3 Stitch, I picked up regrettably now 5 colors of that Karen Impressions. I might reach out to Michelle to see if she wants to buy these off me. This one is called Apple Blossom. It's a little variegated. Pinks, creams, purples. I bought, and again, like this is why I wanted to go to Acorns and Threads, because I just, you know, the color, I just kind of bought what I thought looked pretty. This is called African Violet. This one is Blue Lavender. And this one is called Bittersweet. So these will probably hang out in the stash for a while unless I decide to destash them. You know, they weren't for me. They're too thick. I didn't like them. I sub to Classic Colorworks via Fat Quarter Shop, because I do feel like this is a brand that gets called for, you know, a decent amount. So I thought that a sub would be good. And y'all, the colors, and they've sent them like all twisted, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's so pretty. I just love this like pale purpley peachy pinky vibe. This is called Creamy Peach. Miss Madeline. Spun Sugar. Lavender Louise. Sugar and Spice. Are we noticing a theme? And Mauvulous. Love it. Yeah, Fat Quarter Shop, you can get subs to various, you know, stuff, and they're very good. You know, they ship it very early in the month. The packaging for it is very nice. Like, it's got a nice printed label with all the names. Yeah, it's good. I also sub to Color and Cotton, Floss of the Month. I get 10 skeins from them. Again, didn't take it out of the package. I need to be better prepared, obviously. This was very impromptu though. I couldn't sleep. So I was like, you know what? We're doing it. We're doing it. Okay. This is chartreuse. Verditor blue. Excuse me. Lullaby. Lullaby. Clearly we need another drink of water. Sorry. It's been an hour and 30 minutes, y'all. One day I'll get a floss tube under an hour, right? Parlor? Ooh, I'm liking that red. That's pretty. Yeah. Cherry Fizz. That just sounds fun, doesn't it? Which actually, that one might be good for the, in that Stitchy Princess Black. That might be good for the dark pink that is like in the dress and the hair. And then, look at this. It's called Heather for the purple, for the dress and her hair. That could work. That could work. This one's called Cupid. Oh, wow, we've got some grays. Twinkle. It's a little bit more gray than that's showing. Kind of like a silvery armoire. And Thora. So yeah, those are the 16 skeins of floss I get every month. Okay, next. And I'm sorry, I cannot remember. I saw somebody on Instagram share that they had made some, no, not on Instagram. This was on Facebook, I think. One of the like stitching, they call them de-stash groups, but they do let Etsy sellers basically kind of promote their stuff in there, which sometimes bothers me because that's not really de-stash. But at the same time, sometimes I find stuff that I like. I went a little overboard with these scissor fobs because honestly, how many scissor fobs do you really need? But I love them all and I had to have them all. So I already have several scissor fobs, but I love them. So this is a flip-flop scissor fob, starfish. Love it. Another beachy themed one. This one has a sand dollar. Love it. Flamingo. Okay, let me tell you something. I have a flamingo project bag. I have a flamingo grime guard. I have a flamingo scissors. I have pretty sure I have a flamingo needle minder somewhere. I've at least seen one. Maybe I didn't buy it though. And sometime next month, Michelle, Bendy Stitchy, and Evertotes is coming out with some kind of flamingo pattern. That's all I know. That's all I needed to know. I was just like, I will have this. I've already bought the fabric. And then I regretted buying the fabric because I remembered that Evertote typically does like whole kits. So it'll be the Evertote or the Leo and Roxy floss, the fabric, the chart, and a bag. And I'm like, I know it's expensive, but I'm gonna need that whole set. Gonna need it. I promise you I'm gonna need the whole set. So the fabric that I bought, it'll just have to go in my stash. But I was so excited. I was like, I'm gonna buy the fabric right now. And then I was like, oh, I should have waited. But that's okay. I'll put the fabric in the stash. So now I have a flamingo scissor fob. Yes. You know what scissors I'm gonna use and what I'm gonna put on the scissors, and I'm gonna use the grime guard and the bag. I think something's in the bag. Might have to move it. It's fine. I got bags. I'll move it. Pretty chunky heart. And I love like teacups. I don't know where my little obsession of, shouldn't say obsession. I don't know where my admiration and love of teacups comes from, but this is a little teapot scissor fob. So, but I can't remember where they came from. I'm sorry. Next, let's talk fabric. Y'all, I did a thing. I'm a little ashamed. A little tiny bit ashamed. But in my defense, since I decided that I want Jobelan, well, first let me just show you. I don't have my Bestitch Me fabric yet. It did ship the other day. I might have had it had I waited, but I do have my Fibralicious called Silver Moon 32 count Jobelan, and it is very pretty gray. This is just half the fabric. Yeah, very pretty. Like it. I've really not been disappointed with anything that Gwen from Fibralicious has sent me. Very happy with my Fibralicious fabric. Very happy to be getting it in Jobelan. That's why I canceled Fortnite Fabric. But so there was a person on Instagram, Kindred Stitcher. She does make project bags sometimes. I have a couple. I know I have one. And she, y'all, pardon. We're almost there. Fabric and then a few non-stitchy things. She did a fabric destash, and man, y'all, she destashed like a lot of fabric. And she listed the Lugana and Jobelan first, and she must be like me and like Jobelan because she had way more Jobelan than she had Lugana. I did do one piece of Lugana, but it's not opalescent, and I feel like unless it's super dark, Lugana seems to be okay unless you introduce opalescent, and then I'm like, nope, I'm out of here, I can't. So I felt okay enough to do it, but you know, typically on a go forward, I'm really not buying much Lugana. But so I don't really have, some of these have tags, some of these don't. So I don't necessarily know where all of them are from, but I snapped up almost all the Jobelan. I was on there and I was like, me. I left a few pieces for others to grab, and then she invoiced me, and I was like, because I had taken screenshots of everything that I had won, and I was like, I think the amount is wrong on the, you know, I was like, I only have 7 pieces, well, isn't 9 total because there was 2 that were smaller cuts, but I was like, I only have 7 regular cuts, but you invoiced me for 8. And so she was like, oh, okay, let me double check. And I was like, I got screenshots of everything, like I'll send them to you. But she had accidentally, there was one that she hadn't listed, and it was very similar to some other ones I snapped up, and she was like, oh, I accidentally had this in your pile. It's very similar to other ones you bought. And I was like, oh, and I was like, is it Jobelan? And she's like, yep. And I was like, okay, don't fix the invoice then, just send me that too. And they're all beautiful. So I love this one. Purple and orange. Oh my God. Oh, I love this one so much. I don't know what's going on any of these, but I need to use them. They are just, they're so beautiful. I really, really love that one. And that was one of the smaller cuts, which should have been bigger. This is the other smaller cut. The rest of these will all be fat quarters. This is blue, and it's got a little tiny bit of purple modeling. You can see it in that lower corner right there, but there's more of it. Okay, the rest I'll probably just try to show like half. This is a hand dyed by Stephanie called Pansies on Parade, and it's a Joblin. So pretty, right? Yeah, so pretty. If I hadn't started my Nora Corbetts on just the white Joblin, I would be tempted to put, you know, my 3 series on some of these ones. No label. This is a more vibrant green than is coming off in the camera. It's better back here. This is very green, like a spring minty green. Yeah, very spring-like. Oh, it does have a tag, excuse me. Fantasy dyed fabrics. Oh, that's cute. They attached it with a button, y'all. Look at that. How cute is that? Yes, very minty, springy green. Okay. This might be the Lugana. Nope, Joblin. Hand dyed by Stephanie. Spellbound. That's pretty true right there. Okay. I also have a big order coming from Brandy at some point. At least I did not pay for these at the same time, you know? Like, there was some sites. Oh, this is definitely, is this the Lugana? It's way stiffer. No tag. Kind of very purple, brown, mauve colors going on here. It's way stiffer than the rest of this fabric. It's so interesting to me how the fabric comes out, you know? Oh gosh, it's so pretty, y'all. She destashed the most amazing fabric. Like, what is left in her collection that is better than this, right? Like, what did she hold on to? Like, I'm just, it was amazing. I was like, me please, me please. Oh, this is the Lugana. This is a, ooh. No, I can't read it. It's faded and it's small. It came from Crafty Kitten though. I don't know. It's too small and faded. But yeah, this is the Lugana. Again, so pretty, right? And I love like all the purple vibes. Blue and pink. I think something trans, oh, I could stitch the Don't Mess with Trans Kids on this, because these are totally the trans colors right here. I mean, I don't know, the blue and red might be because like the words are in black, the Texas is in red or blue, and there's stars that are in red. So it might be kind of clashy, but to me, this is like a perfect to stitch something having to do with trans rights, because those colors are perfect. Wish I had stitched my Trans Pride tapestry on it. And then this one is the last one. So gorgeous. So that's all the fabric I have to show you, and that's all the stitchy haul that I have to show you. I feel like I need like a separate video that's just haul, because like a month of haul ends up being a lot. But yeah, so that's all the haul, except for, again, I have a few non-stitchy items. The first thing that I want to show you after I organize my life a little bit here. Okay. You floss tubers that iron, God bless you, because this is already too much work. Okay, first thing I want to show you. I saw on Instagram a story from somebody who was, somebody that I follow was sharing a post from somebody that they followed. And the account that they were sharing from was Chel, C-H-E-L, Chel Crafts, _. And Chel is a fall, I don't want to speak for them, but they fall somewhere under the queer umbrella, artist, and they have they draw a lot of stuff in the Littlest Pet Shop style. So very cutesy, like very, just like, it just has like the sweetest cutesy vibe to it. And they were trying to raise some funds for somebody in need. And they were like, I don't normally do this, but I'm gonna do some pet portraits in my style. And so they were $15, and you PayPal'd Chel, and then Chel sent a portion. They kept a few dollars for themselves, because, you know, you gotta sustain yourself. Like, you can do it for free, but, you know, we shouldn't expect people to do anything for free. So they kept a few dollars for themselves, sent the rest to the person that needed the help, and they posted the screen grabs of doing that. So they provided all receipts that the money was going to somebody that needs help. And they would do, you know, draw your pet in their Littlest Pet Shop style. So I was like, yes, I want my 2 doggies. And then, and they did that so fast. I was like, I know I was like one of the first people to request one, but it was just like a matter of a few hours. Like, they were quick. And then while they were working on it and I was thinking about it, I was like, I had a dog pass away a couple years ago. Could you do her in, you know, could you do a picture of her, but add angel wings and make it sort of like a tribute memorial piece? So I paid for another one, did another one, and I then took the pictures and I went to Shutterfly and I got glass prints of them. And they're so good. They're gonna normally live on this shelf, but I pulled them down so that I could show you. So like, please go follow Chel. Chel also has a Patreon where they design stickers. And they have an Etsy shop. They do like earrings, stickers, magnets, stuff like that. So go follow, go support. This is Atticus and Piper. Look how cute they are. Oh my gosh, like I sent photos and I left the background color up to them, but they asked about what item I wanted in the background, and I was like, well, we need like a treat type thing because they live for treats. And I sent a picture of Atticus with a green ball in his mouth, and I was like, that's like his favorite toy is a green ball. So, and they actually modeled the ball. The ball that was in the picture does actually have some texture to it, and so they kind of mimic that, but still like putting it in their own style. So super cute, love it, love it. And then the memorial piece, it turned out so good. So like a tiny explanation before I show you, because you'll look at it and you go, what is that? I asked for like a rainbow background, And then I was like, instead of doing an item in the background, like that one, I was like, I still have one of the first toys that I ever bought for her. Her name was Lucy. And we got her when we were we'd only been dating. We'd been living together for like 2 months, and we'd been dating for like 4 or 5 months. So she was our first, she was our first baby together. And I, it was September, and so the pet store had like a ton of Halloween stuff. And so one of the first toys that I ever bought her was a little bear that had a witch hat and bow tie that were orange. Now, Lucy, being the dog that she was, the hat did not survive. I'm surprised that the bow tie survived, but I had a picture from way back when we got her of her with the toy. So I sent that as a reference photo. And so that is what's sitting next to her. And I just I know it doesn't make as much aesthetic sense, but I just thought it was sweet to have that toy represented. So you ready for this? Because it's so good. It's so good, y'all. Oh, look at her with the angel wings and the halo, and there's the rain, like a ribbon rainbow, and she's up in the sky with clouds. And look at that sweet little toy. This one, I do love Atticus and Piper's one, but this one is just so precious, and I really love this one. Really, 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 really love it. So yeah, that's what I got from Shell. Next, not as personable or exciting, but I've been watching Dr. Christy on YouTube and Instagram. She's been doing a lot of weaving, and I am so attracted to yarn, but I just cannot seem to understand making the motions to do the crochet and knitting, and also like once you knit something, once you have stitches, I can't see the stitches after they're stitched. So like when you have to come back through a stitch, I can't count them. I can't see them. It just all like blends. So I can't knit or crochet. But I was like, but weaving looks like something I could do, and then that way I could play with yarn. So I went looking for a small loom just to try it. Looms can be expensive. And I found this from Darn Good Yarn. It is a kit. It was on sale, and they had one of those like spin the wheel, get 10% off your first order, blah, blah, blah. So I only paid with shipping $25, and it comes with this small loom and the yarn. It just doesn't come with the string. So, but yeah. So I was like, I'm gonna try this. I don't know when. I wanted to show it off before I tried it. Will I try it in the next month? I don't know, but I wanted to try it. And I will try it eventually, once I get over my ridiculous brain telling me that I can't do things that I haven't done before. Lastly, again, I found out about this from an Instagram story. I don't have the right tag, but I believe, wait, what is it? I can reach, I can. The Tangled Octopus. And their name is Rachel. I'm sorry, I do not know what they identify as. And I forgot to say in the beginning, my name is Danielle and my pronouns are she, her. Hour and 53 minutes later. My name is Danielle and my pronouns are she, her. I apologize. I do not know what Rachel identifies as, but they, I'll just go with they, make like crocheted, what is the word for it? Yeah, no. The stuff where you make like the animals out of yarn. And I saw somebody post about these on Instagram, and I very quickly went to the shop and had to hold myself back. Had to hold myself back, and I only bought 2. Pineapple, it's so cute. Oh my gosh. Oh man, y'all, I almost made it through the video without having to cut. I had an alarm go off. It's so cute. It's a pineapple. Look at it. And it's so like plump. I love it so much. Like, look at this. Oh, but yeah, like, and when you give inanimate objects like sweet faces, like, I'm down for it. So that's the pineapple. And then Bumblebee. Look, it's just so fluffy and soft. Oh, they're so cute. I had to hold myself back. There was an otter. I wanted the otter so bad. So many cute things. So yeah, please go check out the Tangled Octopus. How cute are they? They're so cute. Okay, that's it. 2 hours later. 2 hours later, and I say that's it, that's all. Yeah, so please, 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 please stand with Ukraine. Black Lives Matter. Trans lives matter. People over profits, people over things and objects. Please donate. If you can't donate, send emails, share. Just let's stop being crappy to other people. That is my message for today. So thank you so much. If you watched this whole video, thank you. I know 2 hours is absurd. I mean, you know, like, it's all personal preference, but I know it can be too much. But I had a lot to say. It needs to be said. Voices need to be speaking out, because nothing's gonna happen if nobody speaks out. So thank you for being here. Thank you so much for taking some of your day, some of your time to spend with me, to listen to me, to let me show you all the things. And that is it for now, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, Flosstube.